Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm delighted that you could join me today for this activity. You're in the right place if you're looking to elevate your self-care in the next 6 months. I'm Elizabeth Miller. I'm excited to be here and to share with you today one of my passions about increasing and elevating your self-care. If you'd like to follow along with the presentation in the notes that I've been using, you can access the PDFs for both the presentation and also the worksheet that we're going to be doing for the activity today. So you'll see that within the tool here. You'll also see me. I'm helping to moderate the event, so you can reach out and interact through the chat feature, and we can talk to each other that way. I'm excited to get to know you and to find out what's important to you related to your self-care. So with that, let's get started. So are you feeling stuck with your self-care? There's no wonder. If you're a caregiver, it's already hard enough. You juggling work potentially and family and caregiving responsibilities. I've been there, and I'm going to share a little bit about my story. Bring the world today of 2020 into it with the COVID-19 pandemic and with social injustice events that are happening in our nation. It's a lot. It's a lot to carve out this time for you so that you can stay energized and that you can be the person that you can be your best self. So why is self-care important to me? And I think in order to share this, I need to share a little bit about my story with you. I have been a caregiver most of my adult life. My parents have both had chronic health issues. Both of them are diabetic, morbidly obese. They had sleep apnea. My mom has COPD. My dad had psoriasis, which is an autoimmune disease. My mom had edema, and mom had depression. There's a lot of things. I affectionately call them a cocktail of different things. And so my entire life, it's been a little bit, I don't know that there's been one caregiving event that happened, but it's just been this slow, steady mudslide, if you will, of different events that have happened. I'm one of 6 kids, so we've divided and conquered to tackle the different responsibilities that my parents had thrown our way. When my parents retired, when my dad retired, they moved to their dream home in Florida. I'm outside the Atlanta area in a suburb called Marietta. And so they moved to Amelia Island, Florida. It's a beautiful condo. They were able to hire some help and try to age independently in place for a while. But every now and then they would need help with a hospitalization or help with their taking care of their homes or something to help with with their son, my brother, who had is an adult with developmental disabilities. So there was always something kind of happening. And so we would react and we would find out who the best person could get there the quickest or at that time. And so that's kind of how it started for a while until 2014. 2014 was my family's spiral year. So at this time, so I've been married and living in Georgia. I've got a daughter who's around 14 years old and a son who's 12 years old at this time. They're in school, they're active in sports, they've got travel sports, baseball and travel volleyball. My husband and I work full time, and he's in sales, he travels a bit, and we're trying to juggle these jobs and our kids, which is hard enough for most people. And then you add the caregiving element layered on top of that. Both my husband and I were primary caregivers at the same time. So we found ourselves squeezed in the sandwich generation, taking care of kids and aging parents. My husband's mom, my mother-in-law, had lung cancer. And in 2014, she was in, I believe, her 4th year. She was stage 4 lung cancer. It was a lot. And he was primary caregiver for her. He only had one brother, lived out in Arizona. So a lot of the responsibilities fell on my husband. In the spring of 2014, my mom got sick. So they've had all these chronic illnesses. My mom was hospitalized, and frankly, we thought we were going to lose her. She ended up going to a rehab facility, and she got better, and she came home. But my dad got sick, and my dad was the stronger of the two. And you see that a lot of times in aging couples, where he was taking care of my brother with developmental disabilities and my mom, paying bills, doing all of those things, keeping the household running. And he passed away in August. He had an infection, sepsis, and he'd already had a weakened immunity and health system, and it spent the last week of his life in hospice. And so there we were with my mom, 6 hours away from closest family in Atlanta. Much of my other family is in Philadelphia and the DC area, with a couple brothers here in Atlanta. And so we don't even know how we did it, but we had to move mom. And we had been talking to them for years about moving together and downsizing into assisted living facility together. But that didn't happen. They wanted to age in place. So mom came here and I became her primary caregiver. So my husband's primary caregiving for his mom. I'm primary caregiving for my mom. I'm trying to balance a job. We're trying to get her acclimated. Of course, she's grieving. I'm her number one companion, get her used to a new facility. And she, I would say, didn't quite meet me halfway. When they wanted to come take the bath, she wasn't ready. And it's important that they get on a schedule. So not only was I trying to get her acclimated, I was trying to get her to advocate for her own health. It was a lot. And I was looking for resources and information in order how to juggle all of this and not lose myself in the process. And I went to Amazon, of course, and I'm looking for books. And I found a few books on the sandwich generation. But what I've created with Happy Healthy Caregiver, I'm the founder of Happy Healthy Caregiver, is really what I wanted to exist. And so that now I can give back to other people. So in going back and forth to before we moved mom up and before my dad passed away, I was making many trips. My dad didn't pass away till August. So between that spring and that summer, we were, I can't even count how many trips, a half dozen at least. And so I had 6 hours oftentimes in the car to think about things. And it just dawned on me, and it hit me like a lightning bolt, that the reason why self-care is so important to me is because I've witnessed it for years of what has happened with my mother-in-law and my aging parents about not prioritizing their own health and happiness, and how that has impacted their health, their lifestyle, and not only their lifestyle, but their families' well-being and the way that they spend their time together. I wanted it to be different for my family. My kids would often say, please don't do this to us. So I promise that I'm going to do everything in my power to keep my happiness and my health elevated so that I don't become a burden to those that I love later in my life. And of course, some things are out of our control for sure, but there are a lot of things that are in our control. And I believe that self-care is one of those things. So the first thing I did before I founded Happy Healthy Caregiver in 2015 is I just wanted to kind of do a little experiment. And so I saw a cousin of mine on Instagram do 100 days of happy. And she was posting these great little posts about the different things that she was doing that were making her happy. And I thought, well, if I really want to change things, I need to put my actions where my feelings are. And so I started doing 100 days of healthy. And 100 days of healthy, it could look like, just trying on different things, maybe doing some meditation, maybe trying some essential oils, maybe reading a little bit, sitting out in the sun, going for a walk, petting my dog. I mean, it was little tiny, teeny, tiny things that were just providing me a little bit of health, emotional health, physical health. Sometimes I think all about the physical health, but a lot of it is emotional health, particularly when you're a caregiver. It's a lot. I also discovered that I needed girlfriend time. And so I would get creative and do things like twofers, I called them, where we would go for a hike and be able to catch up then, because I had some friend guilt, when they were also being depleted and were needing time. When mom was in assisted living, it was a lot to take her to, half day off work to do with doctor's appointments. I would feel like I was leaving her on Mount Everest with all her things around her that were within her reach, because I didn't know the next time somebody would be in to check on her. It was a lot. At the time in my life, it felt like I was feeding a nest of hungry birds, I call it, where I'm the mother bird and I've got to go and get the worms for everybody. And I've got this nest of birds and they all have their mouths chirping open, begging for food, and you only have one worm. And so how do you allocate, between job and family and your loved one that needs care, how to allocate that time together? So it's tough. Self-care became my sanity. It was like the little me time that I craved. And what I started doing when I was doing these 100 days of healthy, and then later started blogging and Happy Healthy Caregiver about my experiences, is I was just sharing what was working and what was not working for me. And I've started to notice that I felt better, that I looked better, that people would comment, you seem like you're getting it together. My skin looked better. I mean, I had so much adult acne and fever blisters going on. And so as I started making these little self-care deposits in myself, I just felt so much better. So I kept doing more and more, and I felt less resentful. And I started, I think for caregivers, self-care looks different. So you try on different things. And for me, it's also about setting boundaries. I needed to set boundaries with my mom. I couldn't be there every day. I had other responsibilities. I had already missed holidays and birthdays and so forth when I was going back and forth to Florida for my kids and my family. And I needed to be there for them. I was only going to have this section of time in their teenage, preteen, teen years one time. And my mom had already lived this time of her life. And so I had to set boundaries in place for that. And so we came up with things like I would only go over there on Wednesday night so that I could hang out with her and have dinner with her. We would have picnic in her room. And perhaps I would take the kids over, or family over one day on the weekend. And we would keep in touch with the phone. And of course, I would make sure that her needs were being met where I could. But I was also pushing back and allowing her to be independent. And I think that's part of self-care too, is to manage their independence. We were divide and conquer with siblings. We had people long distance that were doing different things. That was all part of it. Setting the boundaries, asking for help. These are all part of your self-care. So that's a little bit about my story and why I am a self-proclaimed self-care bully. So now my role is a little bit different. I'm a long distance caregiver. My mother-in-law passed away the same year as my dad in 2014. So both my kids lost a grandparent, 2 grandparents that year, and each of us had lost a parent, my spouse and I. And going up, when my sister had a life change, so I had mom in my primary care for about a year and a half in assisted living while working full time and juggling all that. And then my sister had a life change. She got divorced and she wanted to take care of my mom. I thought she was crazy. I thought she had a lot going on, but she said she needed it. She needed a purpose. Her kids were older and going into college or just out of college, and she was ready to do it. Who was I to take that from her? So she did it. She moved to Philadelphia. So we had moved mom 4 times in 4 years, I believe. It was a lot. She moved to Philadelphia until she could sell her home. And then they moved to my parents. What used to be their lake home in Michigan is now my sister and my mom. And most of the time, my brother with developmental disabilities lives there too. My sister's got a lot. So she needs me. She needs me for her emotional support from a distance. So I'm her self-care bully, making sure that she's got time where people are coming in and she has scheduled breaks every week, making sure that she's, eating well, where she can, but not giving her any grief about when she needs to go face first in a bag of Doritos. So we keep in touch. We use an app called Marco Polo so we can talk to each other with my other sisters and cousins that are like sisters. We schedule a annual retreat, our sister weekend that we look forward to. And I just make sure that I'm in constant contact with her and also my mom, because that gives her a break when I'm on the phone. I'm available to help with research and things like that for her. So it's a different role. So I founded Happy Healthy Caregiver in 2015. I have a podcast. I have a self-care journal. My story's been featured in periodicals like Women's Day and Washington Post about our Daughterhood Circles, which is our monthly live support groups. We've been doing them virtually for a while, but we will hope to get them back to live in-person support groups, because I really feel like getting that small groups together, we can help encourage each other. We can do hard things, but we don't need to do them alone. Health Magazine and has also featured some of my story. So I'm passionate about what I'm doing. I'm passionate about helping caregivers. They're my people. They need all the help that they can get. So what I'm hoping that we can have, this is where we're drawing a line in the sand here, because we are halfway through 2020. The first part of the year has been full of like anxiety and fear and illness and a lot of cooking and sometimes more family time, and in some cases less family time, where maybe we've had our aging parents and so forth in skilled nursing facilities and assisted living communities, and we haven't been able to see them. Where we've had kids at home that we're trying to homeschool. It's a lot. Hell, it's been a lot the first 6 months. So who's ready? Who's ready to just kind of draw that line in the sand and really start to turn this year around, frankly, and make it put more of the focus on what we need. We can't just think that this is going to happen by itself, though. We have to be deliberate about it, and we have to be intentional about it. And so what does that mean about being intentional? And so there's a couple quotes I want to share with you. You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending. And that's an unknown person that said that. But what I love about that is we can't go backwards into 2020, but we do have an opportunity to see where the rest of this year can take us and live our best lives in the second half of 2020 and elevate our self-care. Here's another quote. If you don't turn your life into a story, you just become a part of someone else's story. And that's by Terry Pratchett. What speaks to me there is that caregiving is a journey. Sometimes it can be a teeny tiny sprint, but in many people's cases, it's a journey. Years. I mean, I've known people who have cared for somebody for 18 years, maybe their whole lives practically. So we have to figure out how to weave our story into that. Our life's purpose is not put here just to do this one thing of caring for somebody else's life. Our own personal life has meaning. And so to uncover and dust off what those things are that are important to us is also super important. So I want the next 6 months to be filled with things like acceptance and peace and abundance. And self-care to me means energy, energizing ourselves, sprinkling kindness around where we can that makes us feel good, being curious about what we can do, pushing our limits, pushing our barriers. That's all important. And then giving back to our community and really being a part of our community. And that can be in small ways. I'm not asking you to sign up for an annual event where you've got to be a volunteer, but little ways that feed that part of you, those issues that you care about. What are the small things that you can do? So my goal is to just cultivate a bit of calm in this crazy storm called 2020 and focus really on what we can control. Think about New Year's Eve, close your eyes. Where do you want to be? How do you want to feel? What do you want to say to people about what you did in 2020 and what you accomplished for yourself? Self-care has lots of definitions. I'm going to focus on a couple of them. The intentional care of one's mental, physical, and emotional health through everyday practices. There's two words that I bolded in that. Intentional and everyday. It doesn't just happen. We've got to create and carve out and prioritize the time. Pay your own health first. See what happens. And then every day, I'm not talking about a monthly event or a girls' night out or a weekend retreat. Those are all great. But little things that you can do in every day, 10 minutes, 10-minute meditation, a 10-minute walk, sitting with a cup of coffee, reading part of your journals, that kind of stuff. Being deliberate and taking time for yourself for the betterment of your mind, body, and soul. It's going to be better. When you elevate your self-care, you're going to feel better. You're going to look better. People are going to tell you. And self-care is how you take your power back. I love that because so many caregivers are just giving it out, shelling it out, all their energy. So this is about rejuvenating and getting our internal power source reignited. Oftentimes we take better care of our cell phones than we do our own bodies. How panicked are you when your battery's on empty? What if we had that kind of visual monitor on our own bodies? What would you see? Would you see the gas gauge going on empty or the battery sign going on empty? What can you do about it to turn that around? Self-care is not self-indulgence. Self-care is self-respect. Self-care is self-preservation. You're preserving yourself so that you can live your long, beautiful life and experience all these things with your family. So I hope one of these phrases resonates with you. But in simple terms, we just don't want to be on empty and burn out. And as I mentioned before, self-care can look different for caregivers. It's about boundaries and asking for help and other things. So I'm introducing an activity today called the 20 for 2020. And here's one that I've created for me. I know probably it looks backwards, but you've got a worksheet like this. It's 20 for 2020. Feel free to use color markers and so forth. But what I would like to do is, as I'm speaking and sharing with you today, maybe jot some notes down about your 20 things, 20 teeny tiny things that you can cross off, that you look forward to, that you have no dread over doing them. Maybe you have a little dread over doing them, but you're going to feel amazing when you do them. For example, maybe you want to do a wellness visit for a mammogram or colonoscopy, and you've been putting that off. You need to schedule your wellness visits. So you're going to feel amazing when you have that accomplished. So go with that. Begin with the end in mind. The 20 obviously equals the year 2020. I've been doing this the past couple of years, and it's a lot of fun to do it for myself and with my family. And so I hope that you find that it's great to do with your family and your loved ones as well, and your friends, your coworkers, so that you get to know each other better at a deeper level and what's important and what you value. I think what you'll notice when you do complete your activity is that you really focus on what's important to you. I didn't create this activity. I want to thank Gretchen Rubin and her sister, Elizabeth Kraft of the Happier podcast, for introducing it to me, because it's been amazing. It's been an amazing little tool that I've been able to implement into having more intentional, deliberate self-care and elevating it to a new level. So these are 20 little things that you want to do, you want to have, you want to visit. So use the provided worksheet, or if you want to just list out 20 on your, recite it into your phone, whatever. I'm just giving you the worksheet as a guide because it's cute and it's fun to post it and look at it. So you have 6 months left in the year. That's just 4 little teeny tiny things in a month to start paying your health first. You're worth it. If you can't think of 20 things, no pressure. Put some things that you can think of on there that you are excited about accomplishing or doing. And if you only end up with 6, so be it. That's 6 more than you probably did the first half of 2020, or maybe all of 2019. So don't give yourself a lot of grief. Don't beat yourself up. And if you have some space and you want to add something in the coming months, because it's kind of like once you start looking for something, once you start thinking about your list, you start thinking about your list and you can start thinking about ideas and honing it in. So as I'm sharing over the next few slides, and if you're thinking of things, feel free to write them in the comments in the chat box, because what happens is it starts igniting ideas for other people. So I would love to see those as well and interact with you. So because self-care might have been something that you've been put off for a long time, I want to just kind of go over at a high level the types of self-care. So there's 8 types actually. There's there's physical health care. So when we think about physical health care, it's things that are related to our body. Things like maybe sleep, maybe it's been, could be a nap. You want to have a nap once a week. Movement is physical. Exercise, trying a new exercise like yoga or a different sport that you want to get out. Nutrition, maybe you want to have smoothies for breakfast. Maybe you want to eat more vegetables. And so try to make it worded in a way that, you're averaging 7 hours of sleep a month, or you're averaging, because that way it's something that you can actually check off. And sometimes what I've done here, I don't know if you can see this, is I've made little 12 boxes, or that's 10 boxes actually. Get 12 massages. So that one I'm a little behind on because of COVID-19, but how awesome is that to have a massage every month? Wellness visits is also part of physical. Then you've got your social, things like your boundaries. Is there something you could do to set a boundary? Maybe you need, you're going to just visit once a week, or you're going to call once a week or something. Is there something you could do that would just help give you a little more white space in your life? Maybe you want to try support group. That would be social, a virtual support group. Maybe you want to have date night. Or get a 2-for event where you hike with a girlfriend and catch up that way. Or maybe you want to volunteer in some small way, the local food pantry, a 5K, something like that, protest for a thing that's important to you. Whatever you want to do that you think about, or that you want to emulate in someone else that you respect and admire, what's one little thing you could do to step in that direction? Emotional self-care is the third one. Things that you could do to help manage your anxiety and your stress level. Give yourself some inner compassion and kindness. And these could be things like meditation, or a gratitude journal, or serenity prayer, whatever it is that you want to add into your life. Spiritual, time alone. Oftentimes we give, we crave that time alone. Journaling is great. And so journaling, I created this journal because I wanted an easy way for caregivers, the Just For You Daily Self-Care Journal. I wanted an easy way for caregivers to just be able to read a prompt on the day and write in something that was intentional about self-care in a fun way. And this isn't just for caregivers, but it definitely has caregivers in mind. Prayer, online Bible study, sitting, time with a cup of coffee and your devotion and God's word, whatever is important to you, make time for it and elevate your self-care that way. So the other 4 types are personal. So hobbies, interests, identity, style. Maybe you want to get a makeover. Maybe you want to do a hair glaze. Maybe you want to you want to go bald. Who knows? Just have fun with it. Maybe you want to try Stitch Fix, and that's an easy way for caregivers who have a struggle to get out to shop, or one of those other awesome membership boxes. The space around you. Could you do something to just make it bright, cheery, more homey, a quiet corner that you enjoy reading a book in, perhaps a porch swing that you want to take a nap on, something like that. Is there something that you could do that would elevate your self-care there? Or maybe there's an unhealthy environment that you need to set boundaries in and and work on that. And so weave that in some way. Financial. When we think of financial, I think we think of budgeting and saving, and those are important. Saving for that great trip that you wanted to take. Maybe you want to have X amount, saved up to go to Paris or something would be amazing. I hope we're traveling like that someday soon. But also splurging. Maybe there's just some fun pair of, earrings that you want, or you want to shop for the perfect sweater, things like that. And then your workspace, time management, setting boundaries, having a positive place. Maybe you want to have some flowers, some fresh flowers, learn something new that's going to help you in your trade, or just use your time off. Use all your time off. A lot of times it doesn't roll over. And you know what? There's no reward for not using your time off. Use it. You're going to feel better. Okay, those were the types of self-care, but sometimes you can think about self-care seasonally. So we're hitting summer, fall, and holiday seasons. So summer things you could do, think about that stuff. Think about going for a hike near a waterfall, or making your own popsicles, doing a digital detox, going on a motorcycle ride, enjoying a drive-in movie. A lot of these things we can still do while social distancing. Visit a farmer's market would be fun and help those local businesses. Shop a flea market. I think that's so fun to go in an outdoor flea market. Whatever's fun for you. What's fun for me may not be fun for you. What feels good, just try it on. Try it on like a clothes and say, this works. I'm going to add more of this. This doesn't. I want to subtract some. And sometimes self-care is about subtracting some things from your life. There's fall self-care too. Think about, pumpkin spice lattes and fall recipes with squash and pumpkin. Think about a hike to see the foliage and take in that Mother's Nature vitamin D, or shopping for the perfect cozy sweater, or even the black purse that that is going to go with every outfit. There's all kinds of things. Sleep outdoors, have a campfire, eat some s'mores. These are all examples of things that you can do in the fall. And don't look at the end of the year and think about, I missed all these seasons. I wish I would have done X, Y, Z. Now's your chance. Put it in there. Elevate your self-care. Be intentional and deliberate about it. The holidays are coming, and here's a great place to subtract some things and have some self-care. Gift buying used to completely stress me out and overwhelm me until my kids started getting a little bit older. They could shop for themselves. So we would decide on a limit. We would still give them the money. We would exchange names, and they would shop and wrap for us. And then it was so much easier for me as a working caregiving mom, and so much fun for them. So it was great. But maybe you all put your names in and you get one gift, for an extended family. Just get creative with it. We've even set boundaries where we don't buy our growing. I'm one of 6 kids when we've had kids, and so our family is humongous. So we've set a boundary where we don't even buy gifts if they're not physically present with us, and that's been a huge relief. Make a holiday playlist to enjoy the holidays. If you love to bake, put that in there. Bake, your famous banana bread, or slice and bake cookies. That counts. You can jazz them up a little bit in your own way. Spend a day in your PJs. That might be a good one. Or watch your favorite holiday movie. We love to watch Christmas Vacation or Hallmark. Those Hallmark cheesy movies are so fun with my daughter. And then I'm also thinking about a progressive dinner party. Doesn't that sound fun, where you start at one house and you have a course at each house in our neighborhood with a special cocktail? What a fun way to host something and not have all the pressure be on one person. So lots of different things on there. I've had a lot of fun creating mine. I have a variety of things on here, like read all of Proverbs, figure out my favorite brand of Malbec. I got some work to do on that one. I want to ride one of those scooters, the Birds or something like that. I want to go to a rage room and break some stuff and get something out. I want to go to 100 boxing classes. I signed up for a boxing gym with my husband. I want to whiten my teeth. Like, that's silly. So start a hike club. Some of these I've completed. Try 12 new restaurants. Complete my son's video before his high school graduation. So I've completed that. I want to try acupuncture. I've never done that. I want to read 26 books this year, and I want them all to be start with the letter of the alphabet. Just a fun little silly game. I love to visit coffee shops. I want to try 4 new coffee shops. I want to golf with my son Jacob, which we did. 12 massages. I'm going to have to catch up on that one. A lot of different things. And so get my hearing checked. That's one of them that I'm going to feel good when I have that done. So at least I can tell my kids my hearing's fine when they say, you need to get your hearing checked. So things like that, little things that you can cross off, fun things that you look forward to. So I can't wait to hear about your 20 for 20 list. I would love for you to share some of your ideas in the chat. And so again, we can spark some other ideas and people. Once you have your list, post it, reference it where you can refer to it periodically. Put it as a screensaver on your phone or your computer, hang it on your mirror in your closet or whatever, where you can check things off. Or if you are a person who is visually impaired, perhaps set a reminder in your phone so that every month you can remind yourself of what's on your 20 for 20 list and take a little progress report there. Share it. Have an accountability partner. Share it with your best friend, your kids, your husband, your coworkers. Post it where other people can see it. How are you doing on that? People get engaged and they want to help you with it. And if they do their 20 for 20 activity list too, then maybe there's some synergy opportunities where you can do some fun things together. Wouldn't that be great? Then it's just like a win-win-win. I love it. So the bonus is that I'd love for you to share the 20 for 20 worksheet. And so you can do that. I've got a bit.ly link. So if they haven't watched this and they're not watching it with us, they can access the worksheet at bit.ly and then /HHC for Happy Healthy Caregiver, and then the number 20 for FOR 2020. And I'll put that in the chat box so that you have that as well. So it's bit.ly HHC 24 2020. Because what will happen when we start putting this all together is when you have intention and action, the magic starts to happen and your self-care is going to be elevated. You're going to feel good about your own health and happiness, and you're going to just show up better for the people and the relationships in your life. Don't take my word for it. Try it and see what happens. Pay it forward. Everybody can use a little bit of help. We're all get stuck in a rough spot. I would love to stay connected with you. I want this to just be the beginning. If you're not familiar with me, the beginning of our relationship together. I offer a lot of digital newsletters and articles on happyhealthycaregiver.com. I've got a podcast that's published every other week where I spotlight a lot of caregiver stories so that you can hear how they're integrating self-care into their lives. You'll find me on social media. You can check out those links on the website. If you're in the Atlanta area, I'd be thrilled if you joined our Northwest Daughterhood Circle where we have our meetups once a month. But if you don't live in Atlanta, there could be a Daughterhood Circle near you. Just go to daughterhood.org and you can always start one. Wouldn't that be amazing? Start a Daughterhood Circle on your 20 for 2020. Start a blog, start writing, start just taking a step. I also do a lot of consulting and partnership and speaking opportunities. So I would love the opportunity to just share with you some of the self-care strategies and so forth that have worked for me and that have worked for other clients that I have. We can do hard things. We don't need to do them alone. Thank you so much. You can reach me at happyhealthycaregiver.com or Elizabeth at Happy Healthy Caregiver. Awesome. Can't wait to hear how you elevate your self-care in 2020. Take care, everybody.